Neat Nation, good evening or good morning or whatever good thing. This is going to be one for the sickos. It's been a while since I made a video. Apologies. Life happens. It was a very busy summer for me. And it was fine. Family was healthy, which is great. I took a trip to Newfoundland, which is great. And didn't drink a whole crap ton of whiskey, which is probably for the best. Keeping it between the mustard and the mayo right now. Small sips, a few evenings a week. That's better than where we were. Not that I was getting crazy with it, but y'all, it builds up over time, and it's probably just not great. So I've been going to the gym a lot, keeping it tight or retightening the screws, and I feel good. I feel good headed into the fall, but life is still a little tough, which I will get more into in the days to come. But I thought it would be helpful, sort of in Drew P fashion, to just do a little video on when to drink whiskey and when to not to. Now, if I'm going to make a video about whiskey, I probably should drink just a smidge. And I'm going to treat you all to a bottle pop. One of the last picks we did before summer hiatus was this Driftless Glen Bourbon. This was the compatriot to Big Deck Energy. Big Deck Energy was the rye. This was the bourbon. So, Little Deck Energy, maybe, perhaps. And I have not opened mine yet. And there are still some of this. There is some of this available still at sealbox.com. I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Patreon, I turned it off. So if you're not a Patreon member, no problem. You can still get this. Just go to the link below and buy it. $60. That's a good deal. Okay? Bottle pop. Here we go. Oh, come on, son. Oh, nice. Love that. Love that for me. This whiskey was in the 5-ish year old range. It's the great thing about single barrel picks. Doesn't taste just 5 years old. All kinds of body. Fruity. Cola-y. Oaky. A little punchy. That was my first sip of the evening. It's got some punch. Got a great dark color, as you can see. 62.5% alcohol by volume. That's a lot of alcohols by volume. Proud of that. A little's going to go a long way, though. All right. So let's get to the topic at hand. When should we drink whiskey, and when should we not drink whiskey? Well, first, it'd be probably, I could play into the crowd a little bit and say, like, I can answer this real quick. Every dang minute of every day is whiskey time. That's probably not good. Now, granted, I think bourbon specifically goes with just about anything and tastes good at just about any time of day, because I personally love bourbon. That said, it's probably not great for you to drink it all the time. And for me personally, my journey over the summer has been to dial it back, because there were many times I would drink it. I didn't need an occasion. Okay? End of a long day, I'm tired, I'm beat. What do I drink to unwind? What do I do to unwind? Drink bourbon. Okay, it's the weekend. Time to, have some fun, celebrate. What am I going to do? Drink bourbon on the golf course. What pairs well with golf? Bourbon. So I'm going to drink some bourbon. Special occasion, date night, bourbon. Yeah, good times, bad times, happy times, sad times. You can fit bourbon in any of those slots, okay? Now, what I'm going to do is recommend you don't do that, because if you do that always, well, you're probably not going to get any good night's sleep, because alcohol really screws up your sleep. Not great. Not great for your sleep cycles to be drinking the alcohols. So if you want to really crush your sleep, don't have a lot. So I'm going to offer just some suggestions. You can do with these what you will, but for me, a couple rules in terms of when to or to not drink whiskey. Okay, number one, do not drink whiskey when you're sad. Okay, that by definition is medicating. Do not use alcohol to medicate negative emotions. That's highway to the danger zone. Shout out Tom Cruise. It's a very slippery slope to start drinking when you're sad and then become dependent on alcohol to brighten your mood. Spoiler alert too, it doesn't really work. Alcohol maybe numbs things, but it doesn't really help you turn up exactly, at least in the long term. Also, if you drink one night, your odds of anxiety and depression the next day, they also go up. So if you're trying to lift your mood, alcohol is not the ticket. Okay, time number 2 to not drink whiskey, when you're tired. Like, oh, I'm beat, I need to unwind. What did I just say about sleep, okay? I wear a Whoop. I was just charging it actually. Battery pack, charging my Whoop. If you are in the habit of wearing a fitness band and you track the quality of your sleep, as you might with Whoop, you'll realize over time your sleep goes to crap. Real bad sleep when you've been drinking. So if you really are looking to raise your energy levels, alcohol doesn't help. Now, for me personally, I fall asleep easier if I've had a drink or say 2. That said, my sleep quality is not as good. So it's actually better for me to lie awake in bed for an extra 30 minutes going like, gosh, I wish I could fall asleep, and then fall asleep having not drunk, than to drink and then fall asleep. Also, magnesium, really, really helpful for like dialing in your sleep at night. So if you're looking for a magnesium supplement, I'm also here to help. You know, this isn't a crunchy health podcast show thing, but those things matter. Time number 3 to not drink. My kids are upstairs. They're supposed to be asleep. They're yelling. You know what? They're kids. That's fine. It's fine. I would say don't drink a lot while your kids are up if you got kids. I don't hide alcohol from my kids. That said, I don't want them to associate daddy with whiskey. Okay, that's one of the reasons I haven't been making a ton of videos. I enjoy whiskey a lot. It's a fun hobby. I think it's a hobby that can be managed and done in a healthy way. That said, the legacy I want to have with my kids is more pointing them to Jesus and less associating daddy with whiskey. Probably not great, right? I mean, that's a slippery slope for sure. So having established that, times 2 drink whiskey then. Like, I would say socially. Lean into the social element of whiskey. Don't drink in solitude as much, which I'm trying not to do. Like, my wife and I will have a drink together, but I shouldn't spend a lot of time in my basement just pounding whiskey by myself. Not healthful habits. That's tough for me. Like, in the evenings, I get bored, I get like edgy, I don't know what to do with myself, so I would drink out of boredom in solitude. And again, you can just overconsume, or over time consume a lot more than you really intend to, because it's a nice way to slake boredom. There are other options. Again, exercise is good. Drinking other beverages. Big fan of the bubbly waters myself. I had my first liquid death the other day, which in the grand scheme of healthful choices, seltzer water, while not as delicious as bourbon, it's gonna be better for my mental health, physical health, and probably spiritual health. But if I'm with the boys, we're having whiskey night, I mean, all things in moderation, right? It's okay to more or less send it, on an evening when I'm with people that I love and care about, sharing awesome beverages. I am pro that. Other times to drink bourbon, when you're celebrating, like a legit celebration. If you want to call Friday night celebration, fine. That's fine. Friday night is cool, Looking forward to a Saturday. Or if something good happens, like YOLO, truly YOLO. We don't know how many times around the sun we're going to get. So it is fine to drink just because sometimes. So if times are good, you're not medicating, you're just enjoying the living snot out of your beverage, enjoy it. Get all up in that thing. Be like, you know what, this is really good, and I'm thankful for the moments that I have to sip it slowly and keep it neat. Let the good times roll. And that ties directly into like reason number 3 or time number 3 to drink. Bourbon tastes delicious, so you just need to budget out the amount of times you're going to drink it purely for the experience of drinking it. Again, it's delicious, and it does let you feel pretty good in the moment. Even when you have just a little bit, that warming Kentucky hug, love that. And it does take the edge off. Nothing wrong with that. So to sit down with a drink purely like just to explore it, taste it, you love flavor, there's all kinds of flavor in this stuff. If you're a connoisseur of beverages, as I would consider myself, it's fun to plumb the depths, call out tasting notes, find something new in a olfactory sense. Yeah, that's a good reason to drink bourbon. That's not a good reason to drink a lot of bourbon. And maybe you're like me, if you have a little taste, you're like, man, I want another taste. I want another one. You got to manage yourself, okay? You know, if that's your inclination, maybe taste a couple times a week, couple 3, maybe every other, but give yourself off times. That's where I found working out to be helpful. It's easy when you're making healthy choices, like, I have a goal to be healthier, to live my life in a healthy fashion. I'm aware that whiskey does not really contribute to that in a physical sense, so it's a mild deterrent against drinking whiskey. But I encourage that. It's about balance, right? Like, that's ultimately the goal, is to live a balanced life where something, a hobby around alcohol, occupies its proper place, where it doesn't become everything, it doesn't absorb too much money, it doesn't take too big of a physical toll, it doesn't take any kind of relational or emotional toll. That said, barrel-proof bourbon is hard to not allow to take those tolls beyond what we would quantify as ideal. So it's worth reflection, introspection. And that's the point of today's video. And that's why it's one for the sickos. If you sat through all this, shout out to you. I even started it by saying you can go buy more bourbon if you so choose, if you will. Again, I have more bourbon than I know what to do with, just drinking a lot less of it recently and buying a lot less of it. If you did watch all of this, hey, hopefully some of those thoughts are helpful for you. If you've thought, maybe I drink too much bourbon, you're not alone. Chat me up. Happy to share any more thoughts. If you want me to go deeper on the subject, happy to do that too. My dad always said, you can always serve as a bad example. I think the spirit behind that is you live and you learn, and you should be more than willing to share that, as I am, as he is. So, thanks, Dad. All right, y'all. Maybe keep your pores a little smaller tonight, but make sure they're neat, okay?